government, and he's somebody that should know because he's worked inside deeply 3 administrations, been in 4 administrations, and has been around since Barry Goldwater, worked inside the White House with Nixon, right through with Reagan, helped George Herbert Walker Bush get elected, but since then has basically realized, and I'm just recapping what you've said before, that you couldn't do as much inside anymore. You could do more without. Just like you were the head of Trump's campaign, you got out so that you could actually do more, making your own decisions. And I see you everywhere like a superhero, really defending Trump's flank when they try to sneak in and take him out. So I want to get into that. The fall of the Bushes, the unprecedented attacks, the fact that you have been banned and that they would say it. We have banned Roger Stone from CNN because he made fun of some of our ignorant reporters. This is amazing, and it's why they're dying, but they don't care. They want to set that precedent to shut down free speech. And everywhere, they're arresting Le Pen of the Nationalist Front, which is just mainline conservative, in France for saying there's a Muslim invasion. It's dangerous. It is incredible, the censorship at the universities. Harvard just came out today and said we will no longer say master's degree. Because, I mean, masters at golf, master, Obi-Wan Kenobi's a master. No, slave master, banning the word lynch. The last name is now evil. This is a cult of mind control, in my view, and I want to just run the gamut of why they're so scared of Donald Trump, killing political correctness, I mean, blowing a hole through it, calling the emperor's new clothes, and then I get concerned, and let's start here first, and I'm going to try to shut up, I'm so excited, with the fact that, think about this, the New York Times clearly gave the green light for their columnists to come out and say we need to kill Donald Trump. And we see many others saying we need to shut him down, we need to arrest him, the IRS needs to come after him. Everything you've predicted, I mean, if everybody doesn't get behind Trump, they're clearly siding with the establishment. There's never been a clear-cut example, Roger Stone. And I'm just so glad in the last 6 months that I began to get behind Trump's reading the tea leaves and realizing, no, this guy's got to be for real. 9/11 truth, wanting to audit the Federal Reserve. I mean, it is just incredible what he's doing. Great to have you here.
Delighted to be here, Alex, as always.
I know I'm ranting. It's just so exciting, but my excitement is a mirror of the audience out there. I mean, they're like 95% behind Trump now. Folks in my office that weren't for Trump are now saying, no, it's clear we've got to get behind Trump. What do you think's happening? Of all the cornucopia I threw out, where should we start first?
Well, this is why the establishment, the insiders, the D.C. Wall Street cabal are so upset. The rise of Trump is a repudiation of 40 years of bipartisan treason. It is a complete repudiation of the fiscal policies that have left this country broke, the immigration policies that have taken away our security, the foreign interventionist policies that have made us spend blood and treasure for nothing, the trade policies that put us at a giant disadvantage to China, to Japan, to Mexico. Trump is naming names, and he understands the Clintons and the Bushes, the Republicans and the Democrats are in it together. And he scares the daylights out of the establishment because normally, as sadly was the case with Reagan, when an outsider is elected president, they're immediately co-opted. What happens is the establishment comes around and say, oh, Mr. President, you don't know how things work. We know how things work here in Washington. Let us help you. When they help you, they try to undo all of your policies. Trump cannot be bought. He cannot be bullied. He cannot be influenced. He cannot be squeezed. He cannot be blackmailed. And that is why the political establishment is literally wetting their britches over the radical reform that Trump would bring. He's going to re-examine 9/11. He's going to re-examine the origins of the phony Iraq war. He's going to re-examine our Federal Reserve. He's going to demand an audit. Who knows bankers better than Donald Trump?
Because he understands this political elite's going to come after him regardless, even if he was a sociopath, which I don't think he is. I think he's a guy that really cares about America. He knows they're going to keep coming after him once he gets in. He's got the will to politically kill them once he's president.
He's a man of enormous personal courage. I think that his life is in danger. He is such a threat to the status quo, to the ruling elite, to the established order. There's no way to stop Trump NATO. Now, I can tell you, in every one of these primary states, the infrastructure controlled by his opponents was greater. Yet he's running up giant numbers. Democrats, independents, African Americans, people who've stopped voting, people who never voted, are coming to the aid of their country. He's running up numbers like I've never seen. So he is so much better than his campaign in the sense that this is a spontaneous grassroots uprising. Donald Trump shows up and thousands show up to greet him.
And here's the big question everybody asks. Once he gets in, I know he's a smart guy, and I can tell he likes prosperity. He's not one of these kleptocrats that wants to make people poor to control them. That's what this austerity, globalism's all about. He clearly is against that. That's why they hate him. They're so scared of him. He's a nationalist. But if he doesn't deliver on a lot of this, obviously he knows people are going to be so hurt that he will get politically destroyed.
But he's not running because he needs to be president. He's not running because he wants to burnish his ego or his reputation. He's climbed every mountain you can climb.
No, I understand that. But, I mean, you know him so well, talk to him every day, known him for 40 years. I mean, tell us who Donald Trump really is at his essence and what you think he'll do once he's president.
He's a fighter. He is a man of enormous courage. He's a patriot. He's a nationalist. He's a firm believer in American sovereignty. And why is he running? I can sum this up. He's tired of seeing the country go down the drain. And when he says to us, our leaders are stupid, their decisions are stupid, their decisions make no sense. You want to give $150 billion to Iran in frozen assets? That's a stupid decision. Nobody could make a decision like that who cares about the future of their country. So Trump is giving up, Alex, an incredible lifestyle. He's got a great family.
He's making himself a major target.
There's no question. And he's working very hard. I dare say it's been a long time since he's seen a golf course. This guy loves to play golf as a form of relaxation, as a form of focus. But he's working harder than those who know him ever believed he would work because he sees the future of America in the balance, and he understands this is it. This is the moment. We either save our country, take it back, and restore its greatness, or we step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Roger Stone is our guest. We're going to skip this network break because this is so important. Looking at this, I've studied history. I've been involved in politics for 25 years, first working for Buchanan when I was in high school. I'm not a political insider, though. I'm just a person from the grassroots that got involved with Access TV, then radio, then syndicated radio, because I really did want to be a slave. And I could see multinationals coming into killing the Bill of Rights, killing the Constitution, and turning myself and my family into slaves. I mean, it really comes down to that I'm territorial. I'm not going to have a bunch of special interests come in and root me out and dominate me. And that's what Trump said is, you know, he's standing up. He's sick of these politicians ruining the country. And I read that article in Politico where, you know, how Trump did it. And it's basically what you told me privately about he really hated seeing them kill the country. He met years ago thinking about doing this. He almost didn't do it. But now that he's in it, he said this. He realizes he'll be pretty much, his name's going to be hurt. He'll pretty much have to retire if he doesn't win this. And to see him not bought, not controlled, it's like the return of a man. Because not since Reagan have we had somebody that, you know, wasn't totally controlled by this political class. They hate Trump because he's not paying money for all the ads. He's not hiring all the consultants. This guy, as Chris Christie just said an hour ago endorsing him, has rewritten the political playbook. It's seismic. I mean, I get goosebumps because, and I rarely do, because this is so epic. I don't think viewers and listeners understand. There's no doubt now, whether Trump was for real or not, and I know he's for real in my gut, and I can see it politically. He's breaking all the taboos. He is wrecking the insiders. He is changing the system forever. And it's just a manifestation, as you said, of the larger political uprising of populism. And Fox News is the worst now. And I know you go on Megyn Kelly, and there's some nice folks over there, but Fox News has this talking point of, oh, I know, it's just poor white people and racist whites. I mean, it's like MSNBC now, and they're just putting it out that, you know, Trump's really a Democrat and, oh, it's racist and all this because it's whites that feel like they're getting poor when his campaign isn't about race. It is so sick. Do you think that tactic will fail?
Well, frankly, there are far more egregious offenders than Fox. I've got to say a word in defense of Fox because Bill O'Reilly, Sean Hannity.
Oh, Sean Hannity's good on it.
These guys have given Trump his fair shake, and that his point of view is at least reflected.
Even though there's orders coming down probably from Murdoch to.
Well, compare that to CNN, which is the Clinton News Network.
All I'm saying is, shouldn't Fox be more supportive of a populist conservative?
I think they are supportive of him.
Okay, good.
I do think he gets access, and he gets his chance to lay out his case to the American people. So I am not a critic of Fox, but I'll say this. I am a critic of CNN. Now, it's very interesting. Alex, I went back and had to look. Since August of last year, I've either been on Fox Business or the Fox News channel to talk on behalf of Trump, to defend Trump, to stand up for Trump 49 times. I have been on CNN exactly 3 times since August.
So I get your point.
Yesterday they announced that I am banned. Banned from what? Banned from something I was never admitted to? This gets even more comical. MSNBC, under pressure from Media Matters from America, this group of twisted freaks who are Clinton apologists, who the Clintons can do no wrong. First, they demand I be banned at CNN, where I was never admitted. Now MSNBC, where I have not appeared once this year and appeared once last year. They've banned me. How do you ban someone who's never been admitted to begin with?
So why are they announcing it? Just to set the precedent for banning people?
Well, because they know I have the goods on the Bushes and the Clintons. Because they know, as someone who was an insider for 40 years, someone who was in the service of 3 American presidents, who worked on 9 Republican presidential campaigns, as someone who worked in the U.S. Senate as an assistant to Senator Bob Dole, a patriot, as someone who worked in the U.S. House as an assistant to Congressman Bob Steele, who was a member of the House Budget Committee, they know that I've seen the inside workings of the establishment. They know I have the goods on Hillary Clinton. They know that I'm well aware of the fact that her husband is a sexual predator who has attacked multiple women, but more importantly, that Hillary has been an accessory after the fact in every one of those sex crimes. They know that I'm well aware of Bill's abandoned mixed-race son, Danny Williams, who they threw away like a piece of trash and who they doctored up a phony DNA test. They know that I have the keys to defeating the Clintons, and therefore Stone must be discredited. We must discredit him because he knows too much.
Well, now to your point, you're right about Fox. I would just expect them, I mean, obviously they're not as bad as CNN or MSNBC. I would just expect them with a patriot like this, a clear winner, not to do the little jabs and stuff. So that's why I'm upset with Fox.
But at least they're a real news network. When they say fair and balanced, they are fair and balanced. And many...
So I get it. That's why they have some folks attacking Trump.
Many of the talking heads there, who I know privately, personally, very pro-Trump and not afraid to say so. And they let Trump and the Trump campaign get its fair share
Well, let's talk numbers then. Super Tuesday. What do you expect to happen? What's a big win versus something that isn't as good a win? What do you really think is about to happen?
I still think Trump is on track to win big because this is a natural phenomena. It's not about paid television commercials. It's not about phone banks. It's not about the party organization and who's endorsed by who. This is a citizen uprising, and all the polls have been wrong. Donald Trump has always outperformed the polls. He actually runs ahead of where the polls say they're going to run. So here's the bad news for the Republican establishment. They have always assumed that as this field winnowed down, as the Chris Christies got out of the race, as Jeb Bush got out of the race, as the race boiled down to 2 candidates or 3 candidates, that all the establishment voters would galvanize behind the establishment candidate and Trump could be defeated. Here's what they didn't count on. Trump is bringing in thousands of new people, young people, disaffected people.
It's populism. That's what they're scared of.
It's Andrew Jackson-style populism. And ironically, the establishment never liked Jackson. You know why? He was so crude. He was so blunt. He was so plain spoken. He was so uncultured. He was he was a truth teller of his time. And he denounced the big banks. He denounced federal control by the big banks. Does this sound familiar? Donald Trump may be the greatest American hero since Andrew Jackson.
I was about to say, if he gets elected and actually delivers on 20% of what he says he'll do, because obviously he can't do everything. He's not a dictator. He'll be as big as George Washington. And I think Trump realizes that, but you know him well, that if he can be the guy that's the turnaround expert for America and the brand Americana, that he'll be who John Wayne wishes he was.
And I only think, in all honesty, that it'll take 1 term. He only wants 1 term because he's going to bring such broad change to the country. Let's take the wall. Donald Trump knows, from an engineering point of view, from a construction point of view, that the wall can be built. The Mexicans say they're not going to pay for it. Donald Trump's well aware of the fact that the Mexican government is laundering millions of dollars in drug money. They are the central bank, billions. They are the central bankers for the cartels. So we'll be indicting Mexican national figures. We'll have a war because we're going to make them obey the law, and Donald Trump will make the Mexicans stop importing billions of dollars into our country in drugs that are destroying our inner cities, that are killing our young people.
Well, there's a lot of other pressure also that can be done because there's so many subsidies, billions a year sitting down there, just to, quote, fight the drug war. So, I mean, there's so much leverage. Mexico is basically totally dependent on the U.S. And so for people to say it's crazy he's going to make them pay for a wall, I mean, Trump, I believe, will actually try to get that done. But what I like is him coming out and saying, audit the Fed. You were on a few days before he came out with those tweets. And was that just spontaneous that he did that, or had you been talking to him?
Who understands bankers better than Donald Trump? Donald Trump understands the banker mentality. He's taken more bankers to the cleaner than any businessman in the country. He understands how they operate, and he wants to know what's happening at the Fed. He wants to understand the Fed's role in our economy. Look, I worked in the Senate. I worked in the House. I worked on the budgeting process. There's billions of dollars of fraud and waste in our federal budget. But the reason that everybody in the political class always talks about cutting it but never really cuts it is because every one of those dollars has been put there by somebody powerful, some senator, some congressman, some special.
And that's why they're scared to death, because he might actually cut that off.
He is going to take an axe to federal spending. Look at the way he runs his own companies. He runs a very tight ship. He wastes not a dollar.
And folks shouldn't be scared, because then all that money will just stay with taxpayers and go where you want it, going to innovation, going to choices you've made, going to competition. It'll explode.
Not a dollar that we're talking about is helping the American people in any way. It's only helping special interests. So now, finally, we would have a president with the guts and the fortitude and the knowledge and the green eye shade to really cut federal spending, which, as you know, between that and Trump's incredibly dynamic tax reform plan, you would have a booming economy.
Well, look, they're genuinely afraid of him because he's a nationalist, because he's a family guy, he's anti-political correctness, he's sick of being bullied, he's sick of America being bullied, but he doesn't want to start just mindless, pointless wars for profit. He's just good on every point. I mean, it's really amazing to have somebody this good, and that's why they're so scared. When we come back, Mr. Stone, I want to go through strategies, what my listeners all over the country and people all over the world, quite frankly, can do to help get Donald Trump elected, and also the new attacks you're expecting, all this garbage about his tax returns. I think that's a really good point for him to make, that not just say, maybe I'm being persecuted by the IRS. If he gets audited all the time, it's obvious he's being persecuted.
Yes.
And so is Carson. People are so sick of the IRS. And so if they think they're going to bring out his taxes and demonize him over something, I think that's going to backfire. It seems like their instincts are really turning against him. And then the fall of the House of Bush. Have we now seen it? And was it Donald Trump bringing up the 28 pages that did it? Because obviously it is, folks. And again, that's another reason to just say, I'm all in for Donald J. Trump. Stay with us. All right, Mr. Stone's going to be with us all the way to the end of the next hour. And next hour, I'm going to open the phones up for first-time callers that have a specific question for Mr. Stone, huge Trump insider, former head of his campaign. And also, if you disagree with Trump, you're welcome to call in as well. So I'm going to go ahead and give the number out now. It'll be about 30 minutes till we go to your calls. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. Now, I've been kind of ranting and asking my questions. He's got a bunch of points he wants to get into. The real plan to steal the election from Trump, but sunshine can stop it. Then the fall of the House of Bush. That's kind of old news now, but I want to do a post-mortem on it because it shows where the whole power structure is going if they don't get smart and stop cannibalizing the golden goose. That's all coming up. His two books are available at InfoWarsStore.com, The Clintons' War on Women, and Jeb and the Bush Crime Family. And this is the guy, to a great extent, advising Donald Trump. And so that obviously is another reason the power structure is so scared. And you noticed whenever Stone was in here 4 or 5 months ago, he said, watch, Trump is going to go after the Bush crime family. He's going to go after Clinton for the raping and her covering it up. And he did it all. So we literally are talking to the Trump insider here right now. It's so exciting. The establishment media is tearing their hair out about this. He's going to be speaking tomorrow night. I will have a camera crew there covering it. I don't want to say I'm going to show up and you know, get in the way, but I might pop in towards the end. At Brave New Books in downtown Austin, down by UT, at Guadalupe. I want to try to get him to speak at UT. I spoke there and they filled the whole hall, 2,000 people. But believe me, you'll want to get there early because about 100 people can get into the downstairs area, about 100 upstairs. So you'll get to meet him regardless, and they'll have lines around the building, believe me. But that is 7 o'clock tomorrow on Saturday, Brave New Books. And we're going to shoot his speech and then air excerpts of it because everything he says is so good on the Sunday show that I'll be hosting 4 to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. But I'm definitely going to send a crew down there and do a Facebook mentions during his speech. That'll get millions of views. And I'm going to do a Periscope down there. The issue is his Facebook mention is supposed to be personal. That's why I may be in the parking lot and start the video and then send it in and not go in. I mean, I want to be there, but again, it turns into a circus. So that's tomorrow night. Brave New Books, downtown Austin, Texas. Be sure and be there. And then we'll talk to folks, obviously, live on Facebook mentions and more who want to make their comments as well. We're going to go for a few hours tomorrow night because this is a really important event. I'm told a lot of newspapers and TV are going to be there covering it as well. So that's fantastic. Will Stone himself defeat the globalists? No, but all of us together backing him and Donald Trump and others, we will. It's the power of the populace. Speaking of the power of the populace, this organization, back when the IRS was auditing me and I was getting harassed and death threats and sued, and they said, look, this is about 8 years ago, I was told by the establishment, shut up, leave us alone, and we got syndication deals for you and stuff, just be a mainline Republican. And I said, you know what, I'm going to actually try to make money now, and I'm going to try to get big now, I'm going to really try to expand now and hire reporters because you tried to shut me up. I was going to stay small before, you tried to push me around, watch what happens. And now we don't reach 4 or 5 million people a week, we reach 28 million people. And we now have scores of reporters and crew. We had one of the biggest stories this week, according to Google, #1. So that's the effect of what you can do as well. And your purchases of the books, the videos, the water filters, the high-quality nutraceuticals, all of it, and InfoWarsStore.com and InfoWarsLife.com is helping build this. And we're doing an unprecedented sale that we've never done before, the biggest sale ever. It's a leap year sale. Never done this before. Biggest sale ever, 30% off everything until Monday at midnight, everything. 30% off and free shipping, and that's on top of the discounts that are already there. We're losing money on many items. I just said things are so hot in the country right now. Things are so crazy. I said, let's have a giant sale. And they said, you know, it's funny you say that. We're planning a leap year sale next Monday, 24 hours only. I said, no, let's do it through the weekend and then through Monday and then not extend it. So I'm not extending it. I'm not extending it. This is the biggest sale ever in the history of InfoWars, InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com. You can also sign up for auto shipping at 10% off on top of that. It is just crazy. And thank you all for your support. It's amazing. But also support Donald Trump with phone calls to media and by voting and by donating. You know, buy one of those Make America Great Again hats that I've got one that really makes the socialists mad downtown. It's beautiful. It's wonderful to exercise your free speech because this guy just got banned off CNN, even though he was already banned. They wanted to announce it like they control the narrative. Now, I'm ranting, Mr. Stone. You've got the floor right through for the next 12 minutes till we go to break.
Here's my big concern, Alex. Unlike with Ronald Reagan, at a certain point, the political establishment realized that the Reagan avalanche could not be stopped. And therefore, they tried to force former President Gerald Ford on him for vice president. And then they ultimately did force George H.W. Bush on him. That was the price of peace. That was the price of a united Republican Party. Also, they began to see that Reagan could defeat Carter. And, of course, they wanted to get their nose back into the trough. And they figured, don't worry about Reagan. Once he's president, we can surround him with our people. We can co-opt him.
And that was back when there were still kind of two parties.
Yes, indeed. Now, I have no illusions here. The Bushes have not given up. Terrific story in the New York Daily News about how the Bush family will now swing their weight first behind Marco Rubio. They put the little skirmish with Rubio, who is their protege, behind them. And now they are all out to stop Trump. Make no mistake about this. Barbara Bush will be out campaigning for Hillary Clinton this fall if Donald Trump is the nominee. So the financial wherewithal and the Bush...
Well, they call each other family.
They're very close because they've stolen together, because they've profiteered together.
They've had fake charities together.
Yes, 4 of them, all of which are complete and total financial scams. So don't write Jeb off. Jeb's now looking at 4 years from now. And they got George P. He's the land commissioner here in Texas. He's waiting in the wings. These people are criminals. They wrap themselves in patriotism, yet they've never made an honest dime in their lives, and they have profiteered mightily from the system. Don't think that Jeb is just licking his wounds and riding off into the sunset.
So, folks, you need to understand, you're about to get the inside baseball on how they plan to sabotage Trump at the convention or past that at the election. So give us the battle plan, General.
Yes, here's what's going to happen. First of all, the rules for the convention have to be adopted before the convention. Most egregious is Rule 40B. This was originally passed by the Romney people to jam one of my heroes, Ron Paul. Ron Paul legitimately won delegates, but they didn't want those delegates even to be registered in the convention, and they wouldn't let this congressman, a Republican congressman, they would never allow his name to even be put in nomination. So they will take Rule 40B, which just before the convention must be either readopted or amended or dropped, but they will use 40B to allow someone who has not won a single delegate, who has not won a single caucus or a single primary, to allow someone's name to be put on the floor, a white knight for the establishment. It would have been Jeb, but Jeb is now so discredited in this cycle. He is so bombed out with voters that they know that's not credible. That's why Mitt Romney is all dressed up and ready to go. That's why Mitt Romney was viciously attacking Donald Trump on Twitter last night all through the debate. Mitt Romney is he's their horse. He's the horse they have on the sidelines waiting to bring him in.
Now, to explain how that happens, the Democrats have their superdelegate. The Republicans have something similar. If Trump doesn't get the certain number when they go the first round there at the convention, when the people pledge their delegates?
Yes.
So are they planning to try to force Romney completely in or make him VP?
Here's the steps that they would take. Number one, they will take away the fact that delegates are bound on the first ballot.
Oh.
Let's take New York, for example. The delegation to the convention from New York State will be handpicked by the Republican state chairman, Ed Cox.
And by the way, just to back you up, it was in the news last night that 200 top Republicans met in secret. A bunch of them, basically the delegates, or the super delegates of another name, in New York with Rubio's people on how to steal it.
Exactly right.
So what you're saying is fact. Please continue.
Right. So they will try to unbind those delegates, meaning that even if even if state law in various states requires a delegate to vote on the basis of the result of the state primary, they will seek to unbind them. Alternatively, they stall Trump short of victory on the first ballot, because then on the second ballot, all of the binding is gone. So even though I expect Donald Trump to triumph in the New York primary, where his campaign is being run by one of the great organizers and rabble-rousers of all time, my friend Carl Palladino, and where they will thrash the establishment, upstate, downstate, on Long Island, in the New York suburbs, the will of the voters can be undone by these convention rules. Now, what I have done is start to reach out to some of my old associates, some of them going back to the Goldwater campaign, some of them going back to the Reagan campaign, to pull together some of the best convention operatives in America today. We have set up a fund to pay for their travel, to pay for their hotel rooms, to bring them to Cleveland to avoid the steal. You can go to stopthesteal.com right now if you want to make a contribution.
So I should have said from the beginning, we're launching a major move to stop them stealing the will of the voters. This is how elections are really won, folks.
And what we need is the pros. We need the people who know these rules, and they know the ropes. Here's what I do know. The Bush people have manipulated the convention rules since the 80s, and they know the inside game, and they're prepared to play the inside game. As you point out, there's 150 superdelegates. The superdelegates are Republican National Committee members and state chairs. Very few Donald Trump votes within that group. So if you do the math, Trump doesn't have to win 50% of the delegates up for grabs in the primaries and caucuses. He's got to win 54%. Otherwise, he's short of the magic number, and that's what they seek to do.
So we need a landslide, folks, to override this.
Absolutely. And in all honesty, at this point, Ben Carson, who I do think is a patriot, Ted Cruz, who I don't think is a patriot, Ted Cruz, whose wife Heidi was Condoleezza Rice's deputy when they started the Iraq War. Then she went over to the U.S. Trade Representative's office.
He is a Herbert Walker Bush minion protege.
No question. This is where he came from. Trump actually understated the case last night. Ted Cruz recruited John Roberts.
Are you saying, because I believe you, and I don't want to admit this to myself because I wanted to believe in him, Cruz is like a Bush operative sleeper cell because the Bush name is over. He literally is a sleeper cell unless he's turned against him. But he was put in power by them as, I guess, a Tea Party takeover artist. Do you think he's turning against him, or is he a full operative, a double agent?
Well, at a minimum, I think he's a Trojan horse. This guy became a conservative exactly 4 years ago. Prior to that, he was the top issue advisor to Governor George W. Bush. He recruited John Roberts to the administration. Now let's look at his wife, Heidi. I'm sure she's a nice lady.
Goldman Sachs.
She was the deputy assistant national security advisor when they gave us the phony Iraq War. Then she moved over to the U.S. Trade Representative's office, where she was the deputy U.S. Trade Representative working on China policy. That China policy Donald Trump talks so much about. By the way, if you go to her wiki bio, those things have been airbrushed out of existence. Then she goes to Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs made a $1 million sweetheart special interest loan to fund Ted Cruz's ascent to the Senate. Now, in the beginning, I liked Ted Cruz. I liked what he had to say. He sounded to me like a patriot. Folks, he's a quisling. He's a Trojan horse. He's one of them. And he, too, plays a role in this effort to block Donald Trump. His role now is very clear. Siphon conservative votes from Trump. Siphon liberty votes from Trump.
If conservatives don't see the full power of Sauron, the full power of the New World Order is against Trump. This is not a ruse. It's real. He's causing irrevocable damage to him. If people don't get behind Trump, Hillary will destroy a Cruz or a Rubio. Rubio is obviously a ringer. They're waiting to make him president down the road. If you don't get behind Trump, you're totally insane.
And, Alex, I know this is an absolute fact. At this very moment, Ted Cruz is trying to broker a deal with Marco Rubio in which he will continue to damage Trump in return for a Supreme Court seat. That's what he wants. So he's not only an oily lawyer, a slick operator. I like to call him Tricky Ted. This string of sophomoric dirty tricks is beyond anything that I've seen, and I believe in hardboard politics. I get it. But,
yeah, they call you super dirty trickster, but I looked at the stuff you did. None of that was dirty.
Well, first of all, it was all legal, and politics ain't beanbag. But that's not the same thing as sending threatening letters to voters to make them vote, or spreading a false rumor on CNN that Ben Carson, a patriot, is getting out of the race, and then contacting Carson voters to tell them the latest. Oh, did you hear? Ben's getting out of the race. Switch your vote to Ted Cruz. Now, doctoring pictures of Barack Obama and Marco Rubio shaking hands. Last time I saw that was in 1950 when Joe McCarthy doctored pictures of the liberal senator from Maryland, Millard Tydings, shaking hands with the president of the U.S. Communist Party, Earl Browder, which blew Tydings out of the Senate. That's a dirty trick.
So we need a tsunami, but if we don't get the total tsunami because of stuff going on in the States, it looks like that's where it's going now. And how do we stop them there on the floor? By putting Patriot operatives in to basically be there from the beginning, saying we're watching for it. We know it's coming, so that if they even try it, it blows up in their face, because this isn't past years when folks were asleep. If they try to steal this from the people, I think there'll be civil unrest.
Well, that's why I've had to reach out to a number of veteran conservative operatives, people who know the rules as well as the Bushes. We're not without assets. We're not without solid delegation.
We should bring everybody. Pat Buchanan, I know, supporting Trump. We ought to bring him down to the floor.
Absolutely.
We need to bring all these titans in.
That's exactly why we have set up stopthesteal.com.
We need to get Matt Drudge, obviously, who likes Trump and loves Trump. He'll be involved watching for the steal.
Yeah, so I think that, just like anything else, you shed light on the cockroaches and the cockroaches will scramble. We're going to have to shed light on what they have in mind. Terrific piece in the Daily Beast the other day. They blurted it out. Yes, they're playing for the brokered convention. Who emerges? Is it Mitt Romney? Is it Marco Rubio? Is it John Kasich? I think they've given up on Jeb.
But after this spectacle of Trump and he's the winner, if they don't give it to him, the public's finally going to get it. And, I mean, this is incredible.
But on the one hand, you could say the party nomination would be worth nothing if they steal it from Trump. On the other hand, the insiders don't care about that.
Exactly, because they got Hillary already. This is epic. This is epic. By the way, folks, we're teleprompter free here, TV/radio. So we got it wrong, and I'm sorry I got it wrong. It's stopthesteal.org is the website. If you want to try to recruit people like Pat Buchanan, you name it, to be on the floor, talking to the media, invading, and making sure they don't steal the election from the people. And they've done this before. So it's key. Again, that's stopthesteal.org, and everybody should get involved. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231. And your calls are coming up in the next hour. A lot of key questions for the consummate Trump insider, Roger Stone. I'm your host, Alex Jones. His 2 new books are out. And, of course, they came out in the last few months. You notice you suddenly hear Trump basically talking about everything in these. The Clintons' war on women. And then, of course, we also have Jeb and the Bush crime family. But I tell you, these are important books for folks to get, to be educated, as you attack the political establishment that are merged at the hip, call each other family. But to a great extent, I mean, let's just say it. You have been, and folks, I don't just say stuff. Everybody knows that. You've been the prime mover in getting mainstream media to face the fact of the sex crimes of the Clintons and the Bush CIA drug running and the MENA and how these two families work together. And as soon as they brought out 9/11 Truth, Jeb's numbers went down. Jeb pulled out because they were scared to death. Our reporters confronted him twice. And they try to call it a conspiracy theory. His numbers only went up. There are 28 pages. We did attack the wrong country. What do you have to say about the whole Bush dynasty and where all this is going?
Alex, a year ago, more than a year ago, I set out with two goals. One was to defeat Hillary Clinton, and the other was to elect Donald Trump. And I knew that meant vanquishing Jeb Bush. Jeb took a powder because my book lays out how he has never made an honest dime in his life, how he has used the governorship and his family connections to profiteer, and done so at the expense of the taxpayers. Between Lehman Brothers and Enron, the taxpayers of Florida lost
SNLs, the whole family is a scamming weasels.
There's no question. I don't think they ever expected anybody to put it all together. So it's there.
Trump builds stuff and is a TV star and an entrepreneur and a celebrity and loves America. The Bushes literally were the main Nazi lawyers, Prescott Bush. They literally are organized crime, scum of the earth.
Yeah, look, the Bushes would steal a hot stove. They've never made an honest dollar in their life. They've traded on the family name. This is a classic deal. You go to an SNL. You take out a fraudulent loan that you know you're never going to honor. Then you take the money from the loan. You short the stock in the bank. Then the bank falls and you cash in, leaving the taxpayers holding the bag. That's what Neil Bush did. That's what Marvin Bush did. That's what Jeb Bush did.
Jeb works with third world African dictators.
Well, look, the guy got a $4 million personal taxpayer finance bailout when Daddy was the vice president. He defrauded an SNL,
and Donald Trump had the nerve to go up against a crime family nobody messes with. And I want to show this Bruder film. And I don't say this to be theatrical. I said, well, let me tell you, they're looking at killing him and trying to figure it out. I mean, I know politics. He's real. That's why I'm so behind him, because he's in the arena, folks. And it's easy to sit here and bitch and complain because he's not perfect. That guy is in the arena against the globalists. You want it, you got it. That's what a bunch of these questions are. You know, he's wearing a bulletproof vest, the whole 9 yards. I just pray to God nothing happens to him.
Well, this is one of the key points last night, which is the IRS harassment now of Trump is an added dimension. I mean, not only are they out of control, but rather than yanking the tax status of the Clinton Foundation, where the Clinton Foundation filings and their state filings and their federal filings are completely and totally permeated with fraud, rather than going after the Clintons, what's the IRS doing? They're going after Donald Trump. They're harassing an honest businessman. I haven't seen his tax returns. I guarantee you this. He's paying millions in taxes.
It's going to backfire. It's going to backfire. They got the IRS running around 10,000 times what Nixon did with the IRS. I mean, literally.
Nixon actually never did anything with the IRS.
That's why I say 10,000
He only talked about it, but the IRS was completely unresponsive.
Exactly. So they're running around persecuting everybody, you know, right of Mao Zedong, and then they're saying Trump's bad. Back in 70 seconds with the third hour, your call straight up. We are resistance. The country got taken over by foreign interesting globalists. They brag about it. China says, hey, we'll tell you what movies you can put out. Mexican president says, you apologize to me. You filthy Americans. The Pope comes here and has 200-foot walls around his house, but, you know, we can't have walls. We're a joke. And then Joe Biden apologizes to Mexico. And we've got everybody lined up against Trump. We're going to come back in the next segment and go to some calls. We have the Trump insider, Roger Stone, stonezone.com, in studio with us right now. His 2 new books, bestsellers, available in hardback, discounted at InfoWarsStore.com. We have 30% off, never done a sale like this, and free shipping, only running till Monday, and that's on his books too. Take advantage of this. Plus, his books are selling out, by the way, on our site. This is a short segment, long segment coming up. We're going to take calls, but I want to just ask you, as a guy that's worked inside, was it 3-4 administrations at the highest levels, worked on 9 campaigns. We've always had elites. We've had boss hogs. Nobody's perfect. But the old elites wanted a prosperous country so they could skim more off the top. Nobody's perfect. I'm not, you know, an idiot. But they still loved America, and they love their kids and their grandkids. The elites we have now hate bitter clingers. They hate men. They hate prosperity. They hate language. They hate freedom. What would you call this elite and the liberals that want to control speech? I call them cult leaders, like Jim Jones cult leaders. I mean, I don't know how else to describe what they're doing to our kids. This is a pack of scum. I'm not trying to be nasty. They're just the worst people the world's ever seen. Who are these people? You've been there. You've watched the de-evolution. Who are these people, and who are the Republicans that work with them?
Well, they're traitors. I think that's the key word. And the good news is, look, we've got them on the run. I don't want to act like Harry Truman, but here's one of the proudest moments of my life. Bush drops as field narrows. We drove him out of this race. Why? By exposing his family's profiteering and their treason.
And he pledged to never quit.
Never quit.
But was the holy water and the giant silver cross in high noon when Trump came out and said, you let 9/11 happen, you attacked the wrong country, and I'm going to release those pages.
And what he's really afraid of is the fact that there were 28 individual complaints or tips from Floridians about many of the hijackers training and preparing for their mission in Tampa, Florida. So the Florida Department...
And then he let them fly out. They all left in Florida. The bin Ladens all flew to Florida for 3 days, met. They protected them with the state police, and they took off. They made their getaway under Bush's wings.
That makes Jeb Bush an accessory in the attack on 9/11, and he was afraid, and this is all in my book,
Good God.
He was afraid that Donald Trump would go there.
Look at that headline. Trump insider. Jeb Bush, Bush's accessory on 9/11. And it's true, and it's sensational, and we can destroy them. They want to intimidate us all day. Let's get in the arena with Donald Trump. That's why I admire Donald Trump. I've been in the arena at a lesser level and know the danger. You're in the arena. You're in danger, no doubt. All the death threats you get. And we're just saying, you know what? Screw you. Go to hell. You want it. You got it. We're going up against you.
Look, just last week, a reporter who's a friend of mine asked Jeb Bush about my book, and he said, Roger Stone's crazy. Boy, they didn't think I was crazy when they asked me to go to Miami-Dade in 2000 and take care of the recount for them, which I did. By the way, greatest regard of my life.
I remember seeing you on TV.
I thought that he would actually be a compassionate conservative. I have to admit, until I began the research for my book on the Kennedy assassination, I never really realized how evil the Bushes were. I knew that they were self-dealers. I knew that they were crony capitalists. I knew they weren't conservatives. I'm from Connecticut. I fought them back in the day. I had no idea of the enormous scope of the theft and the evil. People say to me, how can you criticize George H.W. Bush? He's a war hero. Really? That's not what the guys on his plane say.
No, he punched out and he punched out
and let others die. So
stay there. This is epic. I want to come back and give you the floor to start back over with this without me interrupting and just get in, because every time I mean, I knew who you were when I met you years ago, and obviously knew you were high powered. But the more I researched you, you've been involved in everything. You're such an insider. To now turn against him in the last decade, I can only salute Roger Stone for his courage, folks. They are scared to death of this man. We'll be right back. I'm Alex Jones. And they're scared of you, too, the people. And we are back. That special report is really scary. Europe is now on the verge of collapse. France is saying that. Sweden is saying that. The highway system in France has over 1 million people living on the highways. This is mainstream news. Attacking people's cars and tourists and women and trucks. Go to YouTube and type in Muslim migrants attack highways. And there's hundreds of videos where you see thousands of people pulling people out of their trucks, attacking them, just crazy stuff. And this is not your regular Muslim migrant, folks. These are people that invaded Syria, most of them. They got kicked out by the Russians. Now they're coming here. Plane loads come into the U.S. They don't even check their IDs. That's in the New York Daily News. That's in the New York Post. And no one gets in trouble. And then Donald Trump says we have to stop people coming in until they at least vet them. And then it's in the news. No, Obama won't even let governors know the names or the numbers. That this is the suicide of the country, the suicide of Europe. Trump insider Roger Stone, I want to get back into the Bush crime family and recap what you were just breaking down and how big that is, and then I want to go to phone calls. But Donald Trump says the most common sense stuff you can imagine, and they turn it around and act like it's crazy.
Yeah, they try to say that it's so simple. It's so simple. Wait, it is simple. We need to seal our borders. Look what's happening in Cologne. You've got these hordes of people raping, killing, taking over public facilities, defecating in a child's pool, raping people in the clubhouse in mass. This is what we have to look forward to in this country unless we secure our borders. So the fact that Trump it wants to make America safe again, not only great but safe again, driving the establishment and the globalists crazy because they see the hordes that are coming here. Only Trump will stop this. There's no American political figure. And I hate it when Trump refers to himself as a politician. He's the anti-politician. He is not a politician. He's a leader, and he's the leader America needs right now.
Well, he is the symbol now of nationalism. One of the few things I think he just gets a little wrong is this whole Apple thing, because the FBI is like, can you just get in this one phone for us? Well, there isn't a program for that yet. They can go to the phone company and get all the records in the ISP. So I think it's I mean, nobody's perfect. I just think he's a little wrong in that. He's right saying, hey, we know they're terrorists. We know they did this. Break into the phone. But they've misrepresented, the FBI has, what they're asking for, in my view.
Well, is Donald Trump perfect? No, he's not perfect. I'm sure if I looked at it, I'd find some areas that we disagree on. But on the big picture issues,
the establishment is scared white as a sheet.
Yeah, because he will refire and revitalize our economy. He will rebuild our military. He will seal our borders. And we will finally have a foreign policy that makes sense. We keep switching sides. We end up facing down the guns that we gave people or sold people. Trump,
incredible.
All he wants to do is restore common sense to government.
You got cut off by the break. I want to go to phone calls. Again, Roger Stone's
sure,
our guest, StoneZone.com. I'm Alex Jones with Infowars.com. The phenomenon, it's like being at the Grand Canyon, seeing what's politically happening. It's just epic. It's so big. It's so vast. You can't believe you're seeing it. It's like surreal. This Trump phenomenon, what's happening all over the world at the same time, populism rising, and the bizarre behavior of the left, like cult leaders. It is surreal for me. And then getting back into the Bushes, how you were involved, running the recount forum, involved getting Herbert Walker elected, inside Nixon, inside Reagan. Looking back, what would Ronald Reagan, Nixon, any of these men, who would you say was probably the most patriotic, best guy? And then what do you think they would think of what's happening now?
If Ronald Reagan were alive today, he'd be rolling in his grave. First of all, I think he knew that George H.W. Bush was the single largest mistake he ever made.
Well, he said he's a globalist trilateralist and didn't want him.
And what was his reward for picking Bush? They tried to kill him. And as I established in my book, the many, many ties between the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan and the Bush family. That's
got to scare them that you're such an insider saying all this.
Let's say two things. First of all, Hinckley is not the only gunman. Secondarily, there's more than 5 shots. Thirdly, they've never turned over the photographs that were taken of the crime scene. I went and obtained the actual photographs, the uncropped photographs from presidential photographer Michael Evans. Look at the big picture. You can see the second gunman. You can see him on the balcony up above the door. You can see the gun in his hand. The 5 shots...
And that's in your book. It's so amazing.
The 5 shots that Hinckley squeezed off at Reagan are all accounted for. None of them hit Ronald Reagan. Now,
and then, of course, Hinckley's family's meeting the day before with the Bushes in Colorado.
John Hinckley Sr., John Hinckley Jr.'s father, is not only a former CIA operative along with George W. Bush, but he's a major financier of Bush's political career in 1964, 1966, 1970, 1980. He's described in the papers, in the newspapers, as a Reagan supporter. Never gave a dime to Ronald Reagan. It's disinformation.
You knew Ronald Reagan very well, and also Nixon. I guess you were closer to Nixon, though, right?
Nixon had a voracious interest in politics.
I mean, after he was out of office, he hung out with you.
We were very close friends. He made a mean martini, I must tell you. The great thing about Nixon was he was not retrospective or introspective. But after he had a drink and a half, you could get him to talk about Alger Hiss, Dwight Eisenhower, Joe McCarthy. Believe me, he knows who killed John Kennedy. He's well aware that Lyndon Johnson killed John Kennedy. What was it that Nixon said to me? Lyndon and I both wanted to be president, he said. The difference was I wasn't willing to kill for it. He knows exactly who killed John Kennedy.
Wow, and that's directly, you're well known to be very good friends with the late Richard Nixon. Nixon wasn't perfect, but you look at the stuff he got in trouble for, having 100-and-something names of IRS stuff, not persecuting tens of thousands openly.
Look, he made major mistakes. Taking us off the gold standard, major mistake. The war on drugs, major mistake. But he did believe in American sovereignty. He believed in American
Is that
power.
why there was an internal coup to just weaken the presidency at that time?
Sure, because you see, the war machine, the internationalists thought that in the election of Nixon, we would be able to prolong the Vietnam War in order to make more money.
But he ended it.
They got a dove. This guy was interested in peace and prosperity. He was very cleverly playing the Russians and the Chinese off against each other. That's not what they expected. They expected a dupe. So
he tried to be president, and that's why they got rid of him.
He was a peacemaker. That's why they got rid of him. Now, that's not to say...
That's why they don't want Trump, because he'd actually try to be president.
And he believes in American sovereignty. He's not prepared to...
And that's why we're in so much trouble. We're going to skip this break. I can't help it. That's why we're in so much trouble, is that there's all these special interests who don't even have the same interest, buying off chunks of everything, as you said, and so nothing seems to make sense or work because it only works for them to get more money. But there won't be anywhere to spend the money if we have war with Russia, or you rob the middle class and the poor people and everything collapses, then all your money's worthless, you morons.
Exactly.
The political class are a bunch of idiots.
Wait till Trump starts talking about monetary policy, because he believes in a strong dollar. He understands the currency manipulation going on by the Chinese. He would make a dollar as good as gold or some other commodity again.
Let me ask you this question.
He's a Wharton graduate. Never think he doesn't understand the global and U.S. economy.
And he's lived in the real world. Big difference. And had to put up with government regulation.
Well, and he's not the toast of Wall Street. I'll tell you why. He made his money on bricks and mortar and land. He made his money in real estate, tangible, hard assets. This is not a guy who played the stock market.
And by the way, they put this lie out that he declared general bankruptcy. When I used to make a film, I'd get liability protection. I'd make a corporation. That's how you're supposed to do it. I'd put it out, and I never had to declare bankruptcy on that particular, but I knew folks that did. If it lost money, I would just roll it up, because I had contracts to folks. That's what I had to do, and shut it down, and that project's bankrupt. That's what every film in Hollywood does. But see, they know the general public hasn't actually worked in a bunch of businesses. They don't know that Trump didn't declare general bankruptcy. He didn't declare that article. He did it specifically on projects that didn't work.
Well, and most specifically, his casino empire, which was destroyed by the state of New Jersey, by government policy. They have no airport. There's no way to get there. Their policies destroyed his business. So he used a legitimate business tactic. He filed for Chapter 11 to protect his employees, to protect his business interests. But the canard that Donald Trump personally filed for bankruptcy 4 times, that's an establishment lie. Promulgated again by Marco Rubio last night.
Yeah, it's not general bankruptcy, it's specific company.
Yeah, you know what? I want a president that's smart. I want a president who will protect the American economy the way Donald Trump protected his businesses.
Well, the globalists admit they want Cloward and Piven. They want us poor. Like Obama said, you can't have cars or air conditioning while he's on a jumbo jet. These people are, it'd be one thing if they were living in a shack saying we've all got to be poor for the earth. I'm not going to put up with these pigs telling me they're these loving socialists. I mean, look what we've got. It's amazing. I want to go to phone calls here, but finishing up on the Bushes, you're saying, is the dynasty dead or is it hanging on by its fingernails? Because the archetype of George Herbert Walker, the former CIA director, the guy involved in the Kennedy assassination, out there looking like he didn't know what planet he was on. I have respect for my elders. But at the same time, them rolling him out, was that indicative of the dying Bush dynasty?
The Bush dynasty is far from dead. These people, if they are nothing else, they're relentless. Look at it this way. George H.W. Bush ran for vice president in 1968, 1972, 1974, 1976, and then he finally got there in 1980. Now, Alex, no one runs for vice president. No one. Other than Lyndon Johnson. Why did he run?
Because he wanted to take over.
He had a plan. That's why his right-hand man, Bobby Baker, says on the day John Kennedy is inaugurated, what does he say? John Kennedy will not fill out his term, and he will die a violent death.
And the Bushes sat at the knee of LBJ and the CIA and the Opera Run right here in Austin, Texas.
This is precisely why the Bushes maneuvered relentlessly through the 60s and 70s and 80s for the vice presidency.
I mean, I actually know folks, you know, let's just say Johnson family, some of the folks, and it's like well known. Of course he was killed. And I know some of the big Republicans, and I've been on a plane with them before, flying in and out of Dallas. There's like, of course we killed that son of a bitch. I mean, they all brag about it.
Well, as you know, the KGB conducted their own independent investigation. J. Edgar Hoover says to Lyndon Johnson in a memo that was declassified in 1985, well, Mr. President, the Soviets did their own investigation. You know what they concluded? You did it. You did it, Mr. President. The French, they did their own investigation at the request of Jackie Kennedy. You know what they determined? Lyndon Johnson did it. Sure, the Central Intelligence Agency is involved. Sure, the mob was involved. Sure, Big Texas Oil was involved.
That's who you always use.
What's their common thread? Their common thread is Lyndon Baines Johnson.
He was the mastermind.
Absolutely. He was the indispensable.
Well, I mean, I've interviewed before she died, and it was on his mistress.
Yes.
You know, they kept over there at the cattleman's suite over at the Driscoll.
Yes.
Nice place to stay, by the way. And boy, I tell you, I mean, he just walked right out and said, after tomorrow, that son of a bitch will never embarrass me again.
He said it to her twice, actually. He said it the night before and the following morning. He said, after today, those Irish mafia sons of bitches won't be down on me anymore. So there's just no question. Remember, in 1963 in Texas, murder's a state crime. Who controls the Dallas police? Who controls the Dallas district attorney? Who has control of the investigation?
Well, LBJ was just an open gangster. He was Dixie Mafia.
Well, he was on the pad for the mob. He was being paid through a man named Jack Halfer, who he pardoned immediately after becoming president. He was.
And my grandmother knew him.
He was a major water carrier for Big Texas Oil. And as far as the CIA is concerned, as the Senate Majority Leader, he has the authority to appoint himself to a committee. Now, the majority leader never serves on a committee of the U.S. Senate, but Johnson appointed himself to the subcommittee of the Defense Appropriations Committee that controlled the CIA budgets. He's the paymaster for the CIA.
I want to go to calls, but I got a question for you later. All these top generals, every special forces person I meet, including officers, they all say there's a counter coup in the government against Obama and the globalist takedown of America. They're all behind Trump. They say he's for real. That's got to scare the power structure that the guys that actually do the hanging are saying they're not going to play ball with going after Trump or anybody.
I think that's exactly true. Look, they're losing their control. That's why they're in a panic. That's why I'm being banned by CNN. It's why I'm being banned by MSNBC. Both laughable because they very rarely interviewed me to begin with.
And their audiences are very small.
And because they know that the truth is dangerous to them. Look, everything you need to know to defeat Hillary Clinton is in my book. The epic rapes by Bill, the cover-up by Hillary, the Clintons' abandoned son, their African-American son, who they threw away.
And
like
to know how they work with the Bushes, both books dovetail together. I've read them both. They're unbelievable pieces of history. InfoWarsStore.com to get those, because I'm an expert in all this stuff. And I'd forgotten so much that was in these books and even learned more. It's simply amazing. And I even had family down here in Texas when a lot of this was going on. That was involved in different agencies and things, and they just say this stuff is dead on, ladies and gentlemen. All right, InfoWarsStore.com. I want to start going to calls. I appreciate everybody holding. Doug, Sean, Kristen, Alex, Tommy. Who should I go to first? Who's been holding the longest here, Harmon? All right, Alex. We're going to go to Alex in California. Alex, you're on the air.
Hi, Alex. How you doing? Appreciate your show. And just a little bit of background. I'm a freelance writer and journalist reporter from the LA area. In 2008, I covered a story that was featured in your police state film. It was about the DUI checkpoint in San Bernardino that they did where their Marines were there. So I just want to say, I believe a lot of what you're saying. I really do.
You're the journalist I had on about the Marines running the armed checkpoints in California. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, in 2000. It was
I remember you. How are you doing? I remember your voice.
Nice.
Sure. So what's your question or comment for Stone?
Well, I have a question and comment. Kind of first, I just want to say to Roger Stone, even though I believe a lot of what you guys are saying about Trump, there's a couple things I find problematic, and I really wanted to get your thinking.
Sure, get it out there, brother.
Lay it on me.
There's a lot of talk on social media and just around a lot of people that, a lot of these racist groups like KKK, neo-Nazi groups, the Westport.
Those groups are run by those people are run by the Democratic Party and always have been. It's come out every time they're run by the feds. There isn't one Nazi group out there that isn't chaired and run by one of these people in the government. It's a total dialectic. Just like George Soros finances Black Lives Matter, the very same foundations run the white supremacists. That's why you go to white supremacist websites. They hate me more than Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm sorry, I'm ranting. You want to comment on that?
Go ahead with your question.
No, I agree. I'm just wondering, will Trump ever, respond to this? Because I think what's happening...
Why should he? It's like responding to dog crap.
They're being used to discredit him. This is an old trick. So you saw a big story. David Duke endorses Donald Trump. Let me tell you something. Donald Trump doesn't endorse David Duke. That's a canard. It's an attempt to destabilize Trump. Donald Trump is not a racist. He is not a bigot.
He's the guy that buys the famous golf courses that are white only and opens it up.
And formed a club in Palm Beach to admit Jews because the big clubs wouldn't admit
He's
Jewish
a rebel,
people.
folks. I've been studying it.
And he has created thousands of jobs for black people, thousands of jobs for Hispanics. Donald Trump stands for opportunity. He stands for prosperity.
But I mean, listen, I haven't found a white supremacist group that's on TV that isn't run by the feds. I mean, literally, I've gone out and protested them, and it looks like an ADL meeting. I mean, if those guys are Nazis up on stage, I'm an Easter bunny. I mean, I'm sorry. It's totally fake. It's a dirty trick, folks.
But thanks for your question.
You got a comment. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I was just saying, I take that into account what you're saying, but I just feel like, I feel like Trump would be better if he addressed this and kind of made it public that he wasn't, because I feel like for the most part, people don't hear that from him, even though it may be true. I
no, I hear you, but here's the deal. Then there'll be more groups that come out and, then a child molester group financed by the Democrats will come out. You'll have to say, I'm not for child molesters. It's a tactic. He just needs to be confident and move forward, but I hear your point. Here's the bottom line, Alex. The power structure is literally crapping their diapers over Donald Trump. I hate to be gross, but that's the allegory. That's why they're so scared. And he's talking about 9/11 truth, audit the Federal Reserve, don't let mega corporations be tax exempt, have national sovereignty, anti-globalism, don't have war with Russia, don't fund and run ISIS, on and on and on, cut taxes on poor people.
Make the hedge fund operators pay their fair share.
Absolutely. We'll be back with more calls with Roger Stone. And we are back with Roger Stone, stonezone.com. We sell both of his books at InfoWarsStore.com. And by the way, we have 30% off, leap year special running till Monday. We've never done a sale this big. And free shipping on top of 30% off, and that's on top of the discounts that are already there. We're losing money on at least 20 items in the store, but we're still doing it. 30% off Brain Force, 30% off Super Female Vitality, 30% off Survival Shield X2, Winter Sun, Secret 12, Oxy Powder, Liver Shield. Biggest sale ever, only runs, because even during the money bomb, we did 25% off and free shipping. This is 30% off and free shipping. The new joint formula, the lung cleanse, colloidal silver, everything, and the little profit we make helps fund the operation. Quite frankly, it's capitalism. A sale this big, we bring in less money per item but make more overall to fund the operation. So it's a win-win-win for everybody. InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com, or 888-253-3139. We have the Hillary for Prison T-shirts as well. The last one sold out. That was limited edition. The new one is in. And we also just have so many other great items there at InfoWarsStore.com. By the way, I was trying to mention all the incredibly patriotic, nationalistic, just brave things Trump's doing. He says, hey, if I get elected, I will prosecute Hillary Clinton. I mean, you talk about asking for it. I guess he just knows he's risking his life. And so he's going all out. I mean, get us inside Trump's mind, and then I want to go to some more calls here, and we have a guest popping in.
Can you imagine any other conventional political figure, any career politician having the courage to say that? I mean, Hillary Clinton can be prosecuted on multiple crimes. There is no question, first of all, that one does not even have to prove intent. There can be criminal negligence in her misuse of top secret documents. The evidence is overwhelming. There's no lack of evidence of guilt. And then that's before you even touch the Clinton Foundation, before you even can touch the fact that the Clinton Foundation is a $2 billion global fraud. It is a vehicle for the facilitation of multi-million-dollar bribes. And here's the best part. You know who's legally culpable? You know who signed all those fraudulent reports? Chelsea Clinton. So you can warm her jail cell up, too.
Wow. And again, you've been the consummate insider, but always promoted kind of Barry Goldwater libertarian ideas since you got in. I know you're a fan of Goldwater. You finally just broke on the system. When was the moment that you became such a resistor? I mean, just putting out the most hardcore books and material about the power structure ever.
The Iraq War was what did it for me. See, until then, I didn't really understand the big picture. And once it became clear to me that we were rushing to war on false pretenses, I realized that the mistake of George W. Bush was an enormous mistake. And I had to atone for it in some way. And that's when I started talking about what I had seen and what I'd heard, and I began putting the big picture together. And look, I don't regret anything that I've written, and I intend to write more. I'm going to continue to pursue this. I started 2 years ago with the idea that we were going to be facing a Bush-Clinton choice, which is kind of a heads I win, tails you lose election, and that had to be blunted. And the only guy who could do it, the only guy with the name ID and the stature and the gravitas and, frankly, the guts, the courage to do it was Donald Trump. Now, last night in the debate, a great deal was made of the fact that Trump gave $100,000 to the Clinton Foundation. In all honesty, he thought he was giving to a charity. He didn't know they were going to steal the money, but think about it.
Plus, that was years ago, and he was in New York.
Even better. Therefore, he has the standing to sue them for fraud and use the lawsuit this fall to open up the entire Clinton Foundation. That's a strength, folks, not a weakness. He was defrauded. He's not happy about it. He thought he was helping poor children abroad. He didn't know that they were going to steal the money.
He thought he was helping kids in Haiti.
He didn't know that they were going to steal the money. So his support for the Clinton Foundation, however motivated.
Well, that's one thing about Trump, though. He wouldn't tell people he's being audited until they brought it up, like he'd done something bad. He's being persecuted. He wouldn't bring it up, but I know it's leaked out that he gives a lot to charity and then never talks about it.
He has helped people not only through charities, but individual pieces. Everybody knows the story about his limousine breaking down on the side of the road. Some folks pull over to help him. They help him get to the next stop. The next day, he finds out who they are, and he pays their mortgage off. That's Donald Trump. This is a guy who cares about working people.
I'll say this, watching him on TV shows and stuff, he came off kind of as fake. But then when I see him with those crowds and those people, he is really responding to it. And really, you can tell almost has tears in his eyes. So I think we're seeing a metamorphosis of Trump, too. You've known him for 40 years, but is he not accelerating his development right now?
This is a man who has never had a cigarette, who's never had a drink, who's never touched any drugs. So he's Spartan in that sense. He doesn't.
Wow, Donald Trump doesn't drink.
Not a drop. Never had a drop in his entire life. Doesn't believe in it. Encourages children not to drink. He is someone who, in all honesty, he doesn't enjoy the company of billionaires. He doesn't like hanging out with the hotshots. I'll tell you what he does like. He likes a good cheeseburger. He likes hanging out with working people. He likes regular people. He relates more to blue-collar workers than he does the members of his own high-class club.
That's what folks have said, is separate from his campaign, that are worked in the buildings and on sites. They say he treats everybody really good.
And he's funny. He's entertainment. He's fun to be with.
I like the fact that he makes those risque jokes. He's being real.
You know what? He likes a beautiful woman. He likes women. He's a devoted.
Well, that's
family
evil
man.
nowadays.
No, he's a devoted family man. His wife, by the way, is a wonderful woman.
She did really good on TV.
Cultured, intelligent, speaks 5 languages.
Let's go to a couple more calls because we've got. We're going to go to your calls after Robert Perry. I wanted to get Robert Perry to pop in. He's on the air with Roger Stone and Alex Jones. It's a total Donald Trump love fest right now, and I'll tell you why. He's in the arena. He's doing stuff nobody's ever done. But we're about to go to him in a moment. First, Joe Biggs. Joe Biggs, one of our reporters, had a question for you before we go to Mr. Perry on the Russia situation. That ties into Trump as well. Russia reportedly threatening to use tactical nukes against Saudi Arabia or Turkey if they send in a huge ground invasion. Notice as soon as that came out, they've got a peace deal going. But we'll talk to Mr. Perry. I appreciate joining us here in just a moment. Joe Biggs, what's your question?
All right, it's for Mr. Stone. I was kind of curious. Today, it's all over the news right now that Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey has come out and endorsed Donald Trump. Do you think this is a good thing for Donald or not?
I actually think it is a good thing. I know that the Rubio people, with an assist from the Bushes, were trying desperately to get his support. But I would point out to you that Chris Christie is a very close friend of Marianne Trump Berry, who's a very distinguished federal judge, Donald's sister, one of the finest women that I have ever known. The Christie endorsement of Trump is a chink in the armor of the establishment. I'm glad to have his support because we're going to a convention that is going to be a vicious fight. This is why I'm trying to recruit the best parliamentarians, the best floor operatives. I've been to every Republican National Convention since 1964. I have worked the floor in the conventions in 72, 76, 80, 84, 88. So I know my way around the convention floor. They have the troops. They have the experts. That's why I've got to go to my Rolodex. I've got to recruit people who've been out of the system for a while, but know these rules even better than I do. I've got to find a place to house them. I'll get no cooperation from the Republican National Committee. There'll be no hotel rooms in Cleveland for the Trumpites. That I can assure you. That's why I set up stopthesteal.org. I got to raise a little bit of money to pull some of the conservative activists, some of the real pioneers.
I think you can probably recruit Buchanan.
I have no doubt about that. Pat Buchanan's a friend of mine, going back to the Nixon days. He's a real patriot, and I have no doubt that he will be on the front lines.
All right, a good question, Biggs. We'll have you popping in also in the 4th hour today. And, of course, Nightly News tonight, 7. And I'll be back this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Central. We're going to cover your speech tomorrow at Brave New Books. And we're going to have excerpts of that Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. I want to go to our guest, who I appreciate coming on the broadcast today. I want to go over several issues with him. Here's the article. Paul Joseph Watson wrote about it, and the report written for Consortium News. And, of course, Robert Perry is the editor of consortiumnews.com, and he has worked with Press TV, Newsweek, PBS Frontline, Bloomberg News, you name it. And he's an author and investigative journalist. And he reportedly has talked to some of the Russian insiders about their strategy in Syria and how serious this has gotten with Turkey still shelling, even as Russia tries to make a peace deal with the U.S. brokering it, Saudi Arabia threatening to launch ground war. And Russia made this threat reportedly 2 days after Saudi ministers said, we now have nukes from Pakistan, we're ready to use them. So if the Saudis are crazy enough to start a nuclear war with Russia, somebody needs to stop them. But of course, Mr. Parry also helped expose Iran-Contra and a lot more. So he's been an investigative journalist for a long time. Robert, thanks for coming on. You're on with Roger Stone, former head of the Trump campaign, who obviously Trump is against war with Russia and what's happening in Syria. So we appreciate you coming on. What did this Russian insider specifically tell you, and what's changed since a week ago with the Russians wanting a peace deal? Is that because they're concerned about Saudi Arabia?
Well, thanks, Alex. Thanks for having me. It's good to hear Roger too. Well, basically, this source who was close to Putin told me at this point, when things were at a crisis stage, Turkey was threatening to do a full-scale invasion of Syria. The Saudis were also eager to go in and join them, and they wanted the United States to be part of this invasion. And the Russians have, according to the source, about 20,000 total personnel. I mean, some are frontline troops and some are support people. And so the Russians were facing the possibility of annihilation of those people. And even though it's a violation somewhat of their general idea of when they would use nuclear weapons, I was told by the source that Putin made it clear to the Turks that if these 20,000 or so Russians were about to be annihilated, that the Russians were prepared to use tactical nuclear weapons to stop this invasion. Now, shortly after that, President Obama apparently was persuasive enough with the Turks and the Saudis to at least calm them down. He didn't flatly forbid them from invading, I was told, but he made it clear the United States would not join them, and that really created some space for Secretary of State Kerry and Foreign Minister Lavrov to hammer out this partial ceasefire that's supposed to go into effect tomorrow or over the weekend.
Well, obviously, you've broke a lot of big stories over the years. You've got a lot of credibility. But right after you put this out, and we have the Saudis threatening to use nukes, which is unprecedented, admitting they have them, and all this, to then see suddenly a brokerage deal happening shows just how serious, how close to midnight we've gotten, and shows how dangerous this situation is. Russia with total sanctions now on Turkey, and Russia, more credibility to what you're saying, because the Saudis have already said it, is remember 888 when the West basically went into Georgia and went all the way up to South Ossetia and Abkhazia and killed all those Russian troops in that demilitarized zone at the UN base. The Russians came in with medium-range nukes and said, we'll use them if NATO doesn't pull out, and NATO did. Dick Cheney blinked. So it shows the insane brinksmanship, and Obama, to a great extent, is being advised by the neocons, and these people are insane, and none of them have been in the military. And it's our military that continues, and I've had Colonel Schaefer on years before Cy Hirsch came on and said, General Dempsey told Obama 3 years ago, you're not sending ground troops in and we're not bombing for al-Qaeda. So again, there's this, not mutiny, because we have a globalist mutiny over America. We have the military, never before in U.S. history at this level, actually holding back the neocons. I want you to comment on that, Robert Parry of consortiumnews.com. But first, Mr. Stone, your take on what I just said.
Well, first of all, let me say I followed Robert's career for many years, and I'm a big fan of the incredibly seminal work you did on Iran-Contra, really first rate. And I'm delighted to be with you today. I think that if you look at all these foreign countries, many of them fear the rise of Trump, because now you finally have a world leader who is unbought and unbossed, whose only responsibility would be to the American people.
And who doesn't want nuclear war?
And who does not want nuclear war. Even last night, his comments about the Middle East shows that he is dedicated to peace. Donald Trump understands that the only people who benefit from war are the munitions manufacturers. So I think—
And the munitions are too big now. We have to stop that business.
The political class is petrified about an American president who puts America first, and whose a fundamental a principle of foreign policy would be simple. Is it in the interests of the United States? Absolutely. Mr. Parry?
In that sense, as Roger points out, Trump is really sort of a realist, and realists have become an endangered species in Washington, where the neoconservatives and the liberal interventionist sidekicks that they have essentially taken over the establishment on foreign policy. And so the old realists, who did exactly as Roger said, they always weighed American interests against getting involved. And this goes back really to the beginning of the country, when when Washington and Adams and Jefferson said, avoid foreign entanglements.
That's right.
And John Quincy Adams said it's not our job to go search for the world for monsters. That's sort of been lost.
Yeah, we now do the opposite of that. That's all we do.
Yeah, and make no mistake.
People.
And
I think to pick up on Roger's point, that there is now an hysteria going on. If you read the Washington Post, which is now dominated by neoconservative writers, their op-ed pages, their editorial page and op-ed pages are pretty heavily neoconservative. There are a few token liberals here or there, but mostly neoconservatives. And so you have this hysteria going on that what will Trump do? And I think they are afraid that he will shatter the establishment as we've seen it for a number of years now, and possibly bring back some of this more practical, pragmatic thinking about American foreign policy. And
that really scares them. A lot of libertarians, a lot of real liberals, a lot of professors, even Code Pink is liking him now, because who wants a nuclear war? Rogers?
No, you make a very good point. Look, the Washington Post is literally the single worst newspaper in the United States. The infiltration of the Washington Post by the Central Intelligence Agency,
naval intelligence,
goes back to the 60s. I have a 5,000-word monograph coming shortly on Bob Woodward, which completely exposes him as the fraud and the liar that he is. You'll be able to buy that at Amazon.com in about 2 weeks. I put a lot of work into this, but people need to realize that nothing Bob Woodward reports is the truth.
Total operative.
Literally nothing.
Who commands him today, though? We know it was naval intelligence and CIA to take down Nixon, but because they wanted to cover up the Kennedy thing. Who runs it now?
I think today he does it for the money, to be all honesty.
Yeah.
I think he's in it for the money. But this guy has a very, very tenuous relationship with the truth, and he needs to be completely unmasked. This is a guy who claimed that he snuck into Bill Casey's hotel room, and then Bill Casey, the former CIA director, confessed everything about Iran-Contra. I knew Bill Casey. I know his wife, Bernadette. I know his children. I know his daughter. At that point, Bill Casey could no longer speak. It's a lie. It's a complete lie.
Wow. I tell you, this is just epic radio today. Mr. Pari, I want to apologize, too, today that I kind of cut your time short. I really appreciate you joining us. Can I get you back on for a full 30 minutes or an hour next week?
Sure, Alex. I'll be around.
Well, you just do a great job at Consortium News. Everybody needs to visit it, consortiumnews.com. I'm going to put you on the phone with Nico and set you up for a full 30 minutes or hour, whatever you'd like to do next week. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, he breaks really big news. And, of course, thank God we didn't have nuclear war last week. But it's just these neocons will kill us all if we let them continue to control things. And they run the Democrats as well to a great extent. We're going to come back with 2 segments with Roger Stone. And I promise go to your phone calls. Sean, you're up next. Doug, Kristen, Chris, Tommy, stay with us. Please repeat that. Roger Stone's our guest. David Knight's coming up. I don't want to exhaust this guy, but I may take him right into the 3rd hour. With David Knight. So I know David's got some questions. We'll have you out here about 15 after, and we can eat that good German Texas barbecue we got back there waiting right now. German recipes, but cooked over there at Vic's by great Mexican folks. It is about as good as it gets. So I'm going to be, there's a plug for Vic's. But we're going to be going 15 minutes the next hour, and I want to go to your calls. I appreciate you holding. You were making a wonderful, wonderful point of hypocrisy when I was talking about how we have the #1 story on the internet, according to Google Analytics, for a day with the New York Times writer calls for assassination of Trump. And then you pointed out something about that guy I forgot about.
Well, there's this fellow named Wilson who is a faux political consultant out of Tallahassee, Florida. This guy goes on Twitter and he calls for someone to put a bullet in Donald Trump. He also accuses, on Twitter, he accuses my friend Ann Coulter of having anal sex with Donald Trump. He's still on CNN. But I've been banned because what I said about Ana Navarro,
as dumb as dog poo,
dumber, is offensive. That's offensive. Just goes to show you the double standard there.
CNN had 3 guests on there: Buzz Bissinger, Piers Morgan, and the ambassador's daughter, whatever that girl's name is, saying, "Let's kill Alex. Let's dress up in uniforms. He needs to be murdered. Let's kill him." And it's all cute and funny. What is their problem? If I said that, I'd be arrested.
This is Soviet-style censorship. They fear what we know. They fear what we have to say. They fear the fact that they can no longer contain the truth about the Clintons and their various crimes. They can no longer contain the truth about the Bushes and how the Bushes and the Clintons are in it together.
And don't they get that Trump is a manifestation, a focal point of the anger? It's not going away. They ought to just run up the white flag and run to a foreign country immediately.
Look, there's 2 people I want to thank. First of all, I want to thank the Pope from the bottom of my heart. He really helped propel Donald Trump
and now Vicente Fox
to a massive victory. And then Vicente Fox, he and his brother have been heavily involved in the drug trade, but I want to thank him also because all they're helping do is make Americans realize that only Trump, the guy they're viciously
that we're run by a bunch of foreigners, that we're chumps.
Yep.
We're being colonialized by every crook and scumbag out there.
Yep.
Well said. Wow. Let's go to Sean in Florida. You're on the air along this same line. Go ahead.
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm actually calling from Clearwater, Florida, right where the guys were trained at PIE Airport on Rubio's watch. But you know, I was kind of discussing the same thing and thinking to myself, why would Rubio be running for second place? Obviously, to get to a broker convention. But my understanding, the three options that they have at a broker convention, all three of those will lead to probably civil revolution. So I'm wondering, do you guys think that somebody would actually take a chance to off him? I know that they've kind of heightened.
Oh, I guarantee you the Clinton Club and others are sitting around right now. By the way, Trump came out and questioned Scalia. Now he learns the secret society. I guarantee you they are thinking about how to get away with it. Mr. Stone?
Well, I've been encouraged not to talk about Trump's security. He has very, very good people around him. Believe me, he doesn't completely trust just their protection of the Secret Service. He has his own security detail, and they're the very best. But Trump is a courageous man. He's a bold guy. He knows that this is dangerous. He knows he's taking his life in his hands. He loves his country. He's ready to do something about it. Here, of course, is the real point. If they wrenched the nomination from Trump through some phony brokered convention, and they managed to deliver the nomination to a Marco Rubio, who really is just carrying the Bush agenda in a more attractive package, or they delivered it to Mitt Romney, of course they would destroy the value of the Republican nomination. Of course they would lose the general election, but that's perfectly all right with them because the Republican establishment would be more comfortable with a Hillary Clinton presidency than they would be with the
That's why we've heard that from Glenn Beck, that mental patient. I'm sorry. That's why we've heard it from Glenn Beck. That's why we've heard it from Karl Rove. We've heard it from all of them that Hillary's better. These people are traitors.
There's no question about it.
By the way, what's wrong? I don't want to bash him, but what is wrong with Glenn Beck? I mean, he literally sounds like a Fruit Loop these days.
He seems to be in the enthrall of Ted Cruz, and Ted Cruz is, of course, a globalist. His wife's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations.
Stay there, sir. Back in 70 seconds with Doug, Kristen, Chris, Tommy, and others. And then I'm just going to keep this guy in here as long as I can. David Knight's coming up out of the other studio in the 4th hour, but we're going to let David get a few questions in. Stay with us. We got loaded phone lines here. I'm just going to folks in the order of how long they've been holding. We'll go to Tommy, then we'll go to Doug, and then Chris, and Cindy. David Knight's coming up here with us in the next segment. I'll ride shotgun until that segment ends, and we turn it over to him. And then there'll be nightly news tonight, 7 o'clock Central. Let's go ahead and talk to Tommy. Tommy in New York City, or New York, somewhere in New York State. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, New York. How you doing today, Alex? I just wanted to tell you, you and your crew are smashing things here the past few weeks. And to Roger Stone, thank God you are who you are. I had one question and two really, really vital suggestions as far as Trump with the campaign. Sure. The question for Mr. Stone is this. When are we going to see a full unveiling as what would help appease the Cheshire Staff Sergeant Biggs? When are we going to actually see the unveiling of Trump's financial plan for the economy, since it is the #1 issue regarding national security? And, I mean, we as the people, I mean, that's what we're starving to hear right now is how we're going to...
Well, sure, he's put out some of a plan. He knows they're going to attack it, but Biggs kept saying, Trump doesn't need a wall. We need a plan. And I get that. I think we've seen more of a plan now. Go after the establishment. Don't let them have one-sided trade deals. That right there. Cut taxes. That's a huge plan. Kennedy cut taxes by 50% in one of the major areas, 30% in another, and the receipts into the government almost doubled. So the system knows cutting taxes brings in money. They just want to control everything. But what is Trump's plan overall?
Trump actually has introduced a very detailed plan. You can find it online. It's been praised by the supply-side economist Larry Kudlow, who's a very close associate of Ronald Reagan and helped put together his tax plan. It has several parts. Let's go through them. The most important one is Trump would cut the corporate tax rate below that of China. So China, our current corporate tax rate is 35. China is 25. Cut America's rate to 15.
And that makes the money come back.
Overnight, all those giant companies doing business in China because it's more profitable.
And the globalists wrote that to ship our jobs overseas.
Right. So they come back to the United States. They bring jobs back with them. They expand here. They hire here. They create opportunity here. Secondarily, the whole question of inversion. There's $2 trillion offshore that's avoiding taxation. Trump would bring that money back into the country.
And at DonaldJTrump.com, we're showing it. It's all there. They keep saying there's no plan. There really is a plan.
There's an extraordinary plan. And then step 3, Trump understands that currently in the federal bank accounts, there is $1 trillion that is unaccounted for. Now, every administration prior to Obama has swept those funds into the general to be used instead of going for higher taxes. Yet those funds sit there. Senator Coburn, the former senator from Oklahoma, great patriot, has talked and written about this at length. Trump would go sweep that $1 trillion back into the national economy, back into the federal coffers. So instead of raising taxes on working people, we can use money that's already on hand and unbudgeted for. Trump has a very dynamic plan that would make this economy cook. You know what I told him? They're going to call it the Trump boom, the biggest expansion in American economic history under a guy who's a Wharton graduate who understands.
I'll tell you, my concern, Stone, is that, Roger, is that they're going to let him get in. They're holding the economy up. It implodes. Then they claim, like smooth haulings, that protectionism caused the new depression when the new depression's already here. That's my big concern.
I'm not sure that Trump would ever really enact the tariffs. I think he's using it as a big old stick against our economic adversaries. He understands cutting the corporate tax rate will flummox China like no tariff could ever do.
Well, sure. That's a form of tariff that our elites put that in with deals with China. People think of tariffs as a classic tariff. China having no environmental protection when we have all this environmental protection makes it impossible to do business here.
Exactly.
So you say we don't take your goods until you put environmental protection on.
And Trump,
there's all sorts of games.
And Trump understands that the key to rebuilding our national defense, the key to rebuilding our military, the key to a strong foreign policy is economic strength, first and foremost.
Plus, you don't let them buy billion-dollar fighters. You buy the fighters that actually work.
Exactly. So, look, I think only Trump understands how to make
Great call. We're going to go to Doug, Kristen, Cindy, and Chris, and that's it for calls. So we got David Knight coming up from the Situation Room. I'm Alex Jones in the War Room. You know, it's easy to sit on the sidelines and go along with all the media hype and bash Donald Trump all day. And I didn't really start even doing research on him until about a year ago. But all the actions he's taken are causing irrevocable damage to the criminal power structure that's hijacked our country. And so I'm not going to back him with half measures. If he does bad things down the road and screws people over, I'm going to come out against him. But I know the other people are bad. And I know they want to control reality, and they want to make myself and my family poor to control me. I'm done. Roger Stone, consummate Trump insider, Republican insider in the last decade, has been exposing their whole system, from the Kennedy assassination to 9/11, and influencing Trump, obviously, in a big way. He doesn't like to brag and says Trump's his own man. He is, obviously, but Stone's one of his major confidants, and, of course, was good personal friends with Richard Nixon and worked with him. And he's here exposing the whole deal. He's part of the whole Florida recount. He's the big insider, and he's going up against him because he's all in now, because the globalists want to break this country and make us a corrupt vassal state. I want to take a few more calls and get some questions from David Knight and then hand the baton to him. And then tomorrow, he's going to be speaking at Brave New Books in downtown Austin, 7 to 9. We're going to cover the speech and broadcast it on Sunday. So look for that 4 to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, because this is a big deal what's happening. And a lot of people from the inside as well are moving this year against the establishment, because they know the establishment is actually hijackers that want to break the country forever, because they're threatened that America might actually try to resurrect itself. America must fall for globalism to take hold. Briefly, we are running the biggest show we've ever run on his books that are at InfoWarsStore.com, on the water filters, the non-GMO seeds, on all the nutraceuticals, Survival Shield X2, Super Male Vitality, Super Female Vitality, Liver Shield, the Oxy Powder, all 17 of our products at InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsLife.com, or call 888-253-3139. And your purchase funds our operations. But this is a once every 4 years leap year sale. It's the biggest sale we've ever done, period. I didn't hype it. I didn't promote it beforehand. It snuck up on me because I'm so busy. Here it is. And we're running it until Monday night. And then that's all, folks, as they say there on Looney Tunes. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. And the money we do make from this helps fund the operation. But look.
Alex, I've got to say, I'm a big fan of one of your products, and I want to mention it, Liver Shield. When I've been on the road doing, what I do, the book signings, the speeches, the interviews, and I get off the road and I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I've been eating bad. I've been not getting much sleep. I hit Liver Shield. It's rejuvenating. I get mental clarity. I get better physical energy. It's a great product. I'm a big believer in homeopathic medicine, so I had to put in the plug. I'm a believer. Good stuff.
Well, it's concentrated herbs that are known to help your liver detox. You can just take it every day or take it once a week or take it, do the gallbladder cleanse. It's unbelievable. It takes 6 days, and you take the oxy powder with it, and boy, on the seventh day, it is spectacular for almost everybody. People can read the reviews, see the informational videos, and I think the folks over at Media Matters and places should do it for themselves, but they might actually pop if they did. And same thing with that lady over there on CNN. I'm being a little bit sarcastic here, but I do want to go back to your phone calls. Thanks for the plug. I didn't know you were a user of our products. Thank you, sir. Good stuff. Well, they're high quality. They're the highest quality we can actually bring folks. Plus, we know we're a target of the FDA, a target of the media, a target of the testers. And we want it to be high quality, but we have to be at the highest standard out there, InfoWarsLife.com. Take advantage of that. This only comes around every 4 years. Who's up next here to talk to Mr. Stone? Doug in Ohio. You're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, Alex.
Welcome, Doug.
Hey, good day, Alex, Mr. Stone. Hey, as well, and my info warriors out there, as well as we all know, America's the sickest country in the world. 90% of our food is banned in 160 countries. We have a DaVita dialysis on every corner like a McDonald's. When will Trump expose this, and what will he do to the corporations manufacturing all this poison that they call food?
Another reason, I forget all the good stuff he's done. He's come out against vaccines and said that they've got liability protection. They need to be studied. They're causing problems. There's too many of them. Again, I just forget why I like him.
Yeah, he's an independent thinker. He understands the problem isn't the vaccines. The problem is what's in the vaccines, the mercury and other products. You can imagine how the medical establishment went crazy when he said this. Trump's a truth teller.
Everything
folks.
you keep saying about him, he comes out and, I mean, that's his views. Where is he on Big Pharma, on vaccines, on eugenics? This is a great call from the listener, Doug.
Let me just say, stay tuned. This is just the beginning of the campaign. Wait, we get into the general election.
So he knows what he's doing. He rolls it out.
Well, one thing at a time. When he talks about monetary policy.
Is it going to be basically Ron Paul meets Alex Jones meets Roger Stone by the end?
Well, we can only hope.
Meets Donald Trump?
No one puts words in Donald Trump's mouth. I am neither a formal nor an informal part of his campaign. I'm just an FOT. I'm a friend of Trump. Just like I'm an FOJ, I'm a friend of Jones. And I operate completely independently. Donald Trump doesn't approve anything I do, nor do I ask for approval. But I would do anything he asked me to help him get elected president.
You're like a little angel, little free agent.
Well, look, he's the last best hope for this country, folks. And that's why I've dedicated the rest of my year through this November to making sure that Hillary Clinton is stopped and that she and her husband and her daughter go to prison where they belong because their crimes are manifest. But more importantly, that we elect somebody who can save this country. The hour grows late. Is Donald Trump or 1,000 years of darkness for the United States?
Well, that's the plan. Thank you, Doug. Great question. Kristen in Ohio, you're on the air worldwide.
Hi. I had a couple questions, actually. My first one is, with all of the illegal immigration stuff that Donald Trump talks about, wouldn't it be smarter to put sanctions on the big companies that are actually hiring the illegal immigrants? Because that's why they're coming over. If they can't, get jobs.
Sure, I'll be honest. The wall sounds kind of like just a big campaign stunt because people get it. But I mean, isn't it go after the employers and then also, incentivize employers to hire Americans?
Look, give Trump his due. He understands the labor market. He also understands how, in many cases, you can't find Americans to fill these jobs. That is just a fact. But he's a giant critic of our visa program, unlike Ted Cruz, unlike Marco Rubio. And I think you'd see a completely revamping of our current immigration system to one that makes sense. One thing I can tell you, Donald Trump is not in the pocket of big business or big anything. Donald Trump believes in American sovereignty, and he believes in putting America first. So look for Donald Trump to completely revamp, completely rewrite our current flawed, broken immigration system.
Other questions, Kristen?
I just had another one.
Shoot.
talks about he wants to expand our military, but isn't the military one of the cost of the military one of the leading causes of national debt?
I think he says he's going to make it strong, and you could do that with half the money without all these boondoggles and screw jobs. The F-15 is better than the new billion-dollar fighters that don't even work, and the $700 toilet seats. What's Trump's real view?
I think what Trump understands is you can afford a stronger and sleeker and leaner but more effective military if you rebuild the American economy. The problem, of course, is massive defense spending when you're running a deficit, when the country's broke. So he understands step one, revitalize our economy.
Like Reagan did.
Get America cooking again. Then you can afford a national defense second to none. Right now, we're spending on defense, although at inadequate levels. At the same time, we're broke. Now add to that we decide, for example, to depose Gaddafi in Libya, but we have to go to the national credit card to borrow the $880 million.
Yeah, we got special interests that are bringing the country down.
To bomb Gaddafi into oblivion.
Look, the elites have decided we're done. They're just they're stealing everything they can right now like a hot stove, like you said. Kristen, great questions. I want to bring David Knight in for a question or two before he takes over. David Knight from the Situation Room. David Knight, do you have any comments or questions for Mr. Stone?
Yeah, Alex, when I looked at what Vicente Fox said, his effing comment, when you actually read what he went on to say beyond that, what he was really angry about was that 44% of Hispanics had voted for Donald Trump in Nevada. And I thought it was interesting. We talked about this a little bit last night just before the debate. Fox said, it's not to defend our race, it's not to defend our creed, but to defend the nation that is hosting you. That raised a ton of questions in my mind, because it sounded like he was appealing to them to vote on a racial basis, on some kind of a creed basis, which I'm not sure what that is, but also the fact that he says, defend the nation that is hosting you. Now, that implies, I guess, that these people are voting when they're not citizens, that they're simply being hosted. It all ties into the North American Union aspect that we're looking at here. But I wanted to get Roger Stone's comments on that. The idea that this former Mexican president is
exactly. Doesn't this show the insane arrogance of the establishment that the Pope and the Chinese communist leaders and the Mexican former president, with all his brother, one of the biggest drug dealers out there on record, telling us what to do? No, Mexico would laugh at us if we did that.
Yeah, I'm very familiar, of course, with the North American Union. As you know, Ted Cruz's wife, Heidi, has been a major progenitor of that through her membership at the Council on Foreign Relations. Look, here's be my message for Vicente Fox. The Trump Justice Department's coming for your brother. They're coming for your brother. They're going to arrest him. They're going to prosecute him, and they're going to jail him because he is poisoning our children. Fox,
and you're going to be investigated too, Fox, just like when I bullhorned you.
Fox is a criminal. His brother's a criminal. Most of those in the Mexican government are criminals, and Trump is exactly right. They're shipping us the rapists. They're shipping us the scum. They're shipping us the criminals.
And then it's a con game like a raped woman. He sits there slapping us and choking us, saying it's our fault.
Here's the
No, get off us, you rapist.
Here's the irony, and the liberals are going to hate this. Donald Trump will get record numbers of African-American votes.
He already is. The polls show it.
Record numbers of Hispanic votes.
Tell us how he'll destroy Hillary, because he really will in the numbers.
If young black men are incarcerated in this country, it's because of Bill Clinton. It's because of the crime bill that Bill Clinton signed. These are people, black people, who Hillary Clinton said had to be made to heal.
What was the other word? She said that they were super predators.
Yes, and that they had to be made to heal. Look, folks, this is very simple. Black lives matter, unless you're Bill Clinton's African-American son, Danny Williams, in which case your life doesn't matter because you've been banished by Hillary. Bill Clinton has a black son. He's a fine young man. He's been discarded like a piece of garbage. And the Washington Post writes, oh, a DNA test proved that that was all false. No, folks, there is no DNA test. Bill has a black son, Danny Williams. Hillary Clinton is the one who banished him. Wait until African-American voters hear about this, and they will.
And that's why they're banning you all over TV.
Absolutely, because they're scared of the truth. They know when it comes to the Clintons and the Bushes, I'm a truth teller.
Well, I've read your books, and I've lived battling the Clintons, and I've lived exposing JFK, and they're dead on.
Well, I've lived inside the belly of the beast. I know the dirty secrets of the political establishment, And folks, I'm not going to be silenced. I'm not going to be shut up by the twisted freaks at Media Matters from America. These people are an adjunct of the Clinton Foundation, an adjunct of the Clinton.
And they give the orders to MSNBC and CNN. They literally give orders in there, and they follow it the next day. How pathetic.
Yeah,
White House-run dirtbags.
So what it proves is that CNN is not a legitimate news organization. They're merely an adjunct of the Clinton spin machine.
Yeah, saying that, Fox, I guess Fox is really great compared to them.
And Alex, that ties into what I was going to also say to Roger Stone. When we look at the way this debate was set up last night, of course, it was CNN and Telemundo. And I think that was also an effort. Everything was targeted towards Trump. As
they kept saying, we'll see what Telemundo
yeah.
thinks.
Yeah, they're upset because Trump won the majority of the Hispanic vote. And so they're trying to play the race card, just as Fox had said, as Vicente Fox had said.
Even Fox this morning, the talking point was, it's whites that are angry. That's why they like Trump. What? I'm tired of seeing everything shut down. I want prosperity. I want lower taxes. That has nothing to do with what color I am.
Yeah. Donald Trump's entire message is aspirational. Trump stands for economic opportunity, for growth. I'll tell you what black people want, what Hispanic people want. They want a piece of the pie. They want American prosperity.
Farrakhan said, give us some of this dirt.
They don't want to be employees. They want to be employers. Trump understands the aspiration.
Could you believe that Farrakhan even came out to us and said, Donald Trump is right. You can't bring in all these radical Muslims because a bunch of them are terrorists and it'll make other Muslims look bad. And I think Donald Trump might want to actually get the country going again. I mean, that was crazy.
Trump stands for prosperity, and I think most Americans understand that.
I'm going to hand this back over to you here. We've got more calls. I know you can go to them. And you got a lot more coming up today, David Knight. But any other questions here for Mr. Stone?
Well, I just think that's exactly the case. As we were looking last night, we had the Telemundo reporter that kept going back to these issues that were very narrow, like bankruptcy for Puerto Rico. And it's like, what she doesn't understand is what you were just saying there, the fact that he transcends all the demographics, and we don't need to be compartmentalized into this kind of balkanized reaction.
Let me stop you, David. Repeat what you've said. Stone hasn't heard it. Just a few months ago, you were still on the fence about Trump because, you know, you're a pure constitutionalist. And I respect that's why I hired you. I don't control what you say. Sometimes we disagree. There are folks in this office still that don't like Trump. That's fine. I just don't need to be judged like I'm bad because, you know, I don't have it's not a purist issue. The whole power structure is against him. He represents populism. If he turns bad later, that isn't even the issue now. We know what we got is bad. This is all in. How are we going to feel if they shoot him and kill him, set him up, his plane blows up, they steal the election from him? He'll be a hero regardless. So I'm just not going to sit here on the fence, hot nor warm, I spit you out of my mouth. I'm all in for Trump. I'll criticize stuff I disagree with. He crosses too many lines. I'll say, okay, I think Trump's got problems. And I won't be ashamed to say it. I don't buy into a person. I buy into a movement, an idea. My gut tells me it's the right move. But you now are saying you're going to vote for Trump. I think we're going today to vote. You and I and others, we're going to go videotape it as well because it's early voting for next Monday. Everybody should go vote. And I got my little voter card and the whole 9 yards. This is the first time, I'll be honest, I've voted in about 8 years because as a political guy, I can cover a lot of stuff, get millions of votes for people. But plus, I know there's so much hanky-panky going on. But this is so big, I'm actually going to vote today. We're going to videotape the whole thing. And so share your testimony of why you've now converted to, not buying into all of Trump, as you said, but you're going to vote for him in the Texas primary.
Yeah, Alex, when I look at issues that I disagree with Trump on, things like eminent domain, other issues of individual liberty, I don't see a difference between Trump or the rest of the Republican candidates, certainly not between him and the Democrat candidates. But what I do see are some core issues. And as I've mentioned before, the 3 core issues about globalist control. And I believe that I can trust him on that because 35 years ago, he's paying $100,000 to take out ads complaining about the managed trade. It's not free trade. It's managed trade. It's being managed by people outside of our country to our disadvantage.
To take over.
Exactly. And so he understands that we're at the core where these things are coming together now. When we look at the open borders, that's an attempt to balkanize the societies of the West, as well as to manage our trade with these international trade agreements, TPP, TTIP. They're going to manage these trade agreements with an international commission that is not accountable to us. It's not appointed by us. Senator Sessions has pointed that out. And so we're going to have managed trade managed by an unaccountable commission outside of us. And then, of course, you've got the climate treaty issue, which would be a globalist tax imposed upon us, again,
and he says that's
by a multinational commission.
He says vaccines have bad additives. We need to look at it. He says he's going to prosecute Hillary. He's going to investigate 9/11 truth.
Opposed to cap and trade.
I mean, it just goes on and on. I don't know how we couldn't support him.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of issues that are within the purview of the president to do something about it. And when it comes to liberty, we all have to understand nobody is going to give you your freedom. You have to take it. And I believe that's a fight that we really need to do at the local and the state level. We can do it with things like jury nullification, state nullification, things like that. We're not going to get everything done by a president at the federal level. That's just the reality of things. So we need to win where we can win. If we've got somebody that I believe we can trust, because this has been an issue for him his entire life, on this trade issue that's destroying our country, on the border issue, which is a part of that, on the climate issue, cap and trade, that's also a part of that. I think we need to run with that.
And then they're scared to death of him for real, and he's doing things that no person who was with the system will do in their right mind. Do you agree, Stone, in closing, that we're seeing irrevocable harm to the corrupt kleptocrats that have hijacked the nation, and that regardless, Trump is dealing grievous blows to the system that'll be felt for decades?
Look, Alex, I don't argue that Donald Trump is a pure conservative. My friends at National Review, and those guys are my friends, that's their thing. They're looking for purism.
How pure they are.
I argue simple that he is the best choice for conservatives in 2016 because on the big picture issues, our fiscal situation, our immigration situation, our trade situation, our foreign policy, he's the best choice for conservatives this year. That's why I'm...
Yeah, look, the holier-than-thou conservatives have sold us out. Their rhetoric's great. Their actions are bad. They can sit there and talk about, purist stuff all day long. They haven't delivered, and they're scared that their buddies that control the big pie and are running the show might not be in charge anymore. That's what all this is about, is they're afraid he's in there nuzzling them out of the trough. They may think he's worse than they are. They are genuinely scared of Donald Trump.
Absolutely. Alex, it's been a great pleasure to be with you. Come out and see me at Brave New Books here in Austin tomorrow night, 7 to 9. I'm going to speak. I'm going to take some questions. I'm going to sign some books. It's very exciting to do a grassroots thing like that, to see the real people come out. And it's extraordinary. People are hungry for the truth. They're ready for leadership. And I think more and more they recognize Donald Trump is the last best hope for this country.
Well, he sure got the establishment having a heart attack. David, I'm going to hand the baton back to you. Got a lot of callers there. Thank you so much, and great job with the crew last night covering the final Republican debate before Super Tuesday. These are epic times to be alive to the viewers and listeners. Get involved now, whether it's local, international, whatever, your organic farming, right to self-defense, you name it. Now is the time to be involved. The future of our world being shaped. Don't forget to support Infowars.com and our sponsors. And we're doing the biggest sale in our history, 30% off everything at InfoWarsStore.com. That's everything, and free shipping. Totally unprecedented. It's the leap year sale. It's bigger than Black Friday, and it runs through next Monday. Thank you so much, Roger Stone.
Alex, great to be here.
David Knight, you're in charge. God bless you.
Well, Alex, I want to take some of the calls here, but before we do, of course, last night was actually a lot of fun. It was a free-for-all brawl, and there's been some fallout from this. I want to get your comments about what you thought about the debate last night. One of the things that I thought was interesting that developed this last week was the push for appointing a Supreme Court replacement for Scalia. And I thought it was very interesting that the Democrats got together and offered this to a Republican governor from Nevada who is sitting there. That could have been very difficult for the Republicans to handle. But, of course, Mitch McConnell called him up, and then he declined the offer. So maybe they really do mean that they're going to allow the next president to select Supreme Court justices. We'll see.
And I want to say, put on these glasses or start chewing concrete.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum. Time to take a stand, boys.
I'm Alex Jones, and like Rowdy Piper, I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick globalist butt. It's time for all of you, the Info Warriors, and myself included, to take our fight to the next level and to help the public put the sunglasses on. The metaphor for expanding your awareness, researching what's happening, and admitting that there's a global elite establishing a planetary tyranny. And I was just thinking about it today. It's leap year coming up on Monday. That only happens every 4 years at the end of February. And this is the best time ever to promote liberty and freedom everywhere. We got Super Tuesday coming up next week. And it's important for Americans to be involved in their political process, but not just in their political process, in every action you take, with what you talk about and the products you buy and what you promote. you affect change in the world. We don't just vote at the ballot box. We vote with our dollars. We vote with our feet. We vote with our actions. And that's why for leap year, running from this Friday evening right through Monday evening, we're running the biggest sale in the history of 20 plus years of InfoWars and Infowars.com. The leap year special only comes around every 4 years. 30% off all products at InfoWarsStore.com and free shipping on top of the discounts that are already there. This is a major loss leader with some of the products, but overall it will help us fund the InfoWars operation and get our reporters out there across the world covering what's happening. The planet is ready to wake up. People are ready for the truth. But to do that, those of you already awake have to redouble your efforts spreading the word and directing people to good sources of pro-human information like Infowars.com, my syndicated radio show, the nightly news, and more. I'll be back this Sunday live, 4 to 6 p.m. with the Sunday radio show as well. But in the meantime, take the time out to visit InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsLife.com to find the specific nutraceuticals and take advantage of the biggest specials yet on true game-changing products that are simply amazing. Like Survival Shield Nation Iodine X2. Most people are iodine deficient, and most iodine out there is bound to other compounds, so you don't really absorb it. Our research shows this is the purest, strongest, most focused, good halogen ever. And what it does is simply amazing. Read the 5-star reviews at InfoWarsLife.com today and take advantage of the biggest sale ever in InfoWars history. And on top of that, I finally want to thank all of you that have spread the word about the broadcast and that have supported us and our sponsors and bought the products at InfoWarsStore.com. Because without you, none of this would have been possible.